We know quality, we know how to take care of it.
That's not fucking easy. You're talking the quality of food has to be number one. 4 years later now, it's probably one of the biggest meal prep companies in New England. Business people up here are the grittiest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yes.
We never went backwards though.
We're going out of business my entire life, and you're not going to be. And I don't expect it to start now. So get ready to strap the fuck in. Hey guys, welcome to Behind the Rides podcast. My name is Angelo Perrina, and I'm joined by my brothers and business partners, Lucho and Valentino. On this podcast here, we're going to be doing a lot of different things. We're going to be interviewing local, national, and global successful entrepreneurs, as well as talk about some of the lessons that we've learned along our 15-year career building a 9-figure organization. So a little bit of background about us that we'll talk about kind of what we have going on. So we own a company called ALV Ventures, which is a holding company that holds multiple different types of businesses. We have 3 Italian full-service restaurants called Toscana Restaurants. We have a company called Nutre Meals, which is a meal delivery company servicing the entire Northeast. In addition to that, we have a local insurance company that specializes in home and auto insurance. As well as Premier Solar, which is a residential solar installation company that services 10 states currently, with the goal to get to 48 states in 2023. We have Marte Capital, which specializes in private lending in addition to full-scale development projects around the country. Currently, we're in South Florida right now. And we have ALV Properties, which acquires distressed multifamily properties, and we manage those that rental portfolio as well. So really diverse background where I would consider ourselves serial entrepreneurs. We love business. We love the game. We love talking about it. And we're not afraid to talk about, some of the wins and some of the losses along the way. So we thought we could provide a lot of value to you guys by talking about these things that we're seeing live in person every single day.
And with that being said, we have a lot of different dynamics between all of us. I'm the youngest, I'm 30 years old. Lucho's the middle brother, Angelo's the oldest, and we kind of all bring different qualities to the business that kind of makes the whole thing kind of go round. Without Angelo, we couldn't do what we do. Without Lucho, we couldn't do what we do. Without me, it kind of, we couldn't do what we do. It's just there's us together really kind of creates the engine that flows the businesses.
Correct. Yeah. A lot of where I'm strong, he's weak, so we have a really good, strong partnership, and the unique fact that we're brothers and we get along pretty good. So that's,
and on top of that, the really key, the reason why we wanted to start this podcast is because we have a lot of diverse experiences throughout the ventures. It's not just restaurants. It's not just real estate. And with that being said, we've had a lot of losses along the way. We've had a lot of learning curves along the way that we're hoping that we could reach some people that are in the journey, in the middle of the journey, that can actually hear some of the tips that we have to then apply to their own lives. Because a lot of these podcasts that are created, it's when they're already at the top, right? It's like when Andy Frisell or Ed Miletter already have these massive, massive companies. We're in the middle of the journey. We're still rising. That's why we figured we could actually document it and kind of report back to this. If we learned something this week, we could report back to this, and hopefully someone else could take that lesson and apply it to their own life.
And it's not just us either. So we're definitely going to bring on, we have a big network of friends and other entrepreneurs that are in all different various industries across the country. So we're going to be bringing them on, interviewing them and picking their brains on exactly how they started, how they grew their businesses. So we're going to try and bring you as many different angles and vantage points as we possibly can to give you the best value that we can.
And on top of that too, we're proudly from Massachusetts. So I think in the beginning, we're going to have a real hyper focus on the real successful people in this area.
Yeah, for sure.
Because again, we're proud to be from New England. I think the people from the Northeast are probably, in my opinion, like the strongest and most, the hustle, like the hustle.
You got fucking balls.
Yeah, like people in the Northeast have a sack. And every time you go to like Florida or you go to like the West Coast, if you guys ever travel, the most successful business folks down there or
come from up here.
Yeah. They come like Chicago, Boston, New York. Like I truly think that business people up here are the grittiest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we also have the immigrant edge too, which I think we'll get into. I mean, we're going to walk through the kind of our story from the beginning. We're going to roll it back kind of to day one, right? To explain a little bit about who we are as people, and then just give you a brief background about our businesses up until this point.
Which makes a huge difference, to be honest. Like what separated us at a young age, even like in sports or like in kind of anything we have done, has been our upbringing, and a lot of it had to do with dad.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
You know, like dad, our parents really were first generation from Italian, first generation from Italy, and they came here with pretty much nothing, right? And instilled in us, and especially Angelo at a young age, like
He's still
Angelo
today.
got the brunt of it, He's still fucked up. There's a story that he had to fire like a machine operator at like 14 years old.
Yeah.
That's he's still fucked up over. But that type of experiences really kind of like sped up our process of business.
100%. That instilled in, people ask us all the time, like, how do you, like, how are you guys so entrepreneurial? Like,
Yeah.
and we don't know anything else. Like, we were born and bred that way from the beginning. Like, I never for 1 second in my life thought I was going to go get a job, go to college, get a job, like have the normal path. It was always, what we were going to do, and honestly, having parents like that, it always, I never felt for 1 second that like I could fail at something, or I wasn't going to do good at it, whatever it was.
It's true.
They really made us feel like, okay, it's not a matter of, if you're going to make it and what, it's just what you like to do, what you love to do, and go after that business, and you'll find a way to make it work.
And for better or for worse, we don't really have like hobbies. You know what I mean? Like
No life.
we have there's just nothing else that we like to talk about other than business or growing or like how to get better or whatever in business. And that, again, for better or for worse, it could be it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
It's a little off balance, but
yeah. But again, I think that's
Yeah.
kind of what it takes, right? Like if you talk to any like super successful people like Zane, for example, or any of our really good friends who super 9-figure businesses, that's only thing they really talk about.
Right.
Like if you got dinner with them, it's the only thing they talk about. The only thing that they want to talk about, really. And if you put them out of that zone, like talking other than business, they kind of get like awkward and weird. They don't even know what to talk about.
Right.
We have that bug a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our Sunday dinners, we still get together every Sunday as a family, like with our parents, and now get grandkids and, all that. The whole, like my mother is just trying to get us to stop talking about business the whole time, because it's everything gets analyzed, everything gets talked about, and there's a lot of different things to talk about all the time. So we don't always get a chance to touch on it throughout the week. So when we get to like Sunday dinner, it turns into like a shit show. Now, depending on the mood of the topic, like how hot of a topic it is, it could get ugly. But it's just ingrained in our life. It's always been that way, from a young age. And it's not even just dad, mom too. Our mother's an
Mom's a
entrepreneur
fucking
too.
beast.
Mom's mom. Don't
Mom's
forget about
the glue.
Nani. She's the
Yeah.
OG.
Yeah,
exactly.
It
So
started.
our grandmother, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we can go on and on. There's a lot of shit that going on and onions that we could peel back about ourselves and what we're doing and why we're doing it. But let's talk about the timeline, right? The timeline of when we started our first business.
Yep.
That started with Angelo, my father, when he graduated, I think 2008, 2009. College,
2007, and then I did 1 year. Actually, so
you're
2008.
You're wicked old.
Yeah.
So 2007.
College you graduated.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can tell about that, but again, don't ramble for 6 hours about it. Let's make it brief.
You don't want me to ramble?
No, the
Sure.
short. The short.
100%.
Give the short. Yeah.
Okay. So 2008, graduated from college. 2000. So right away I went into work with my mother's company. Well, my mother and father's company, the marble company. They own a company called Stone One Marble and Granite. Actually, prior to that, I worked with my father's construction company. Like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take over that company. Like I lived it, breathed it. I was like, loved it.
At a young age, like even high school, middle school,
like 12,
like
13 years old, like, driving like heavy equipment and all that stuff. Like that's what I literally loved doing it. Every vacation, every like week off of school, all that shit. I worked there all the time. So anyway, once I got out of college, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like this is it. Like this is what I want to do. And my father really didn't want us to follow in his footsteps in the construction, just because he thought it was, didn't have a good quality of life. And his health. Yeah. Our father had a heart attack when he was 42.
A lot of liability. OSHA was up his ass. He had a couple of jobs that really like affected his mental health.
Too stressful.
Yeah, it was too much stress. So he was like, all right, let's find an industry that's not stressful. He thought the restaurant business wasn't going to be
what
stressful.
an idiot.
Nice
Yeah,
pick.
great
Nice
pick.
pick, Dad. Yeah.
So, we found this place in Peabody, which is our flagship location today. It's called Toscana's in West Peabody. So this restaurant was pretty much going out of business when we took it over, unbeknownst to us. We thought it was like doing well, but it was essentially going out of business when we took it over. So when we got in there, I'll never forget, when we went into the closing room, whatever, and then we walked out. I'm 22. Right. I was 22 and my dad looked at me when we walked out. He goes, I've never gone out of business in my entire life and you're not going to either. And I don't expect it to start now. So get ready to strap the fuck in.
Roll the sleeves up, bitch.
And I'm like, holy shit. I've never even worked in a restaurant before.
Yeah.
Legit. And I did. I worked in high school. I answered
Mario's.
I answered at a place called Mario's. I answered the phone and
Yeah, I literally remember being in college, like, oh, dude, you could sell a bottle of wine for 5 times what it's worth.
And I remember I was
You're
in
gonna be
high
really
school,
rich,
like playing like football. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, I
is going
called
on here?
him. He was 19
I was
at the
like,
time.
I
He
was
a
out there
junior in
shopping for
college.
like my best suit jacket. I thought I was just gonna be walking around.
Yeah, I
in a
said,
suit,
dude, this is gonna be
kissing
awesome. We're
babies.
just gonna like show up there once a quarter.
Yeah, we're
collect
gonna like
money,
be
go to
the man.
Aruba. It's
Girls are
gonna
gonna
be
love
fucking
us.
awesome. Yeah.
We're gonna be like restaurant guys, like
Yeah.
in the movies.
Yeah. So we realized that wasn't the case. So we got in, and it was just not even close to
So give
that.
the timeline too. So we're in 2008, 2009. There's a recession.
Big time. If
Yeah.
you were around back then, it was an absolute shit show.
Like
It was
accountants
like-
were trying to be like waiters and shit, right? Like that's how crazy it was.
Yeah, no, it was a nightmare. Like it was not looking back. It was like, what were we thinking? Like in the middle of a recession to
Yeah,
get
I
into
mean,
the
it really
restaurant
made
business.
it didn't make any sense at the time.
Right, but you know what? Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Right.
But
We
that's-
would have overthought it. We wouldn't have done it. Instead, we jumped in with 2 feet. We figured
If
it
we
out.
knew what we
But
knew now,
let's-
we wouldn't have done it.
But let's
period.
talk because now we're talking about people are gonna have. If I was looking at us like again how you started,
Mhm.
how did you acquire it? Like we didn't just walk in; they gave us the keys. Dad gave us like a loan
Yes.
to purchase it.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so
and we got it for really, really cheap because again, it was like going out of business. And back then, 2008,
Yeah,
2009,
we still
there was-
overpaid.
everything was
we
on.
overpaid for it. But
At the time, we look back and say we overpaid, but it was still not much. So Dad gave us the loan to get started over there. And then he was, we were involved in everything from the beginning. I mean, we were literally, right away, I remember like, okay, I figured out real quick that the only way that this place was going to be successful and not have everybody there have us by the nuts and not have any like control of what was going on is I needed to learn everything from the kitchen out. So I dedicated myself to learn everything in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So it was like knee deep in marinara sauce, frying cutlets, like turning into an eggplant. Like that's
So turning
that-
into an eggplant
Yeah.
to doing the financing, doing the bookkeeping, and being a 22-year-old trying to tell a 47-year-old who's been there for 10 years as a chef what to do, how to do it, and try to like. That's not fucking easy, dude.
no, it wasn't. And I was terrible in the beginning. Like I
Yeah.
had people quitting like left and right because I
Yeah.
was, again, I came from construction and I'm not, I get a very like
Soft around
aggressive.
the- yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Love or hate personality.
Yeah,
Angel
like I'm
is.
pretty aggressive with stuff. So I was coming at everybody like very hard and
without knowing what you were talking about either.
exactly like
A
right away.
22-year-old
Yeah.
with a big ego.
Right, and so that's the landscape. We're 22 years old. Angel's coming in. Our immigrant dad. We both don't know. They don't know shit about restaurants. Me and Lucho.
We know how to eat though.
Yeah,
That's for
Lu-
fucking sure.
that-
Yeah, we
know
have
quality.
palates. We have
Yeah.
palates.
We know quality. We know how to take care of people.
So
That's-
then,
we care
so
about
then,
people.
tell the next steps. What happened in that next 2 years? And then Lucho's graduating. Tell what happened then.
All right. So the first 2 years was just a lot of learning and getting through the humps and everything. So
Making no money.
oh yeah, that's not even that's a.
Yeah.
I thought
Okay,
that was
but
a
that
given
has
at
to
this
be
point.
clear.
But we
because
weren't
there's-
losing, but we were not losing. We were breaking even. I mean,
But there's a common.
well, I was
it
doing the
depends.
financing,
Yeah.
so basically my strategy with the accounts payable was only pay when someone came to pull out of your cold dead hands.
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
was our cash flow strategy in the beginning. So
in 10 audits later.
so I legitimately did the payroll. I did all the accounts. Can you imagine knowing the way I am, like how bad that was? Like I remember we had like a notebook. Please, if the IRS is listening, don't.
Yeah,
don't
fuck
listen.
off,
No,
please.
we did everything right, but it was like, like vendors calling every minute. Like we did just enough.
I was in my senior year in college at this time.
Yeah, and I'm calling him all the time saying like, what
No,
the fuck?
well, you were like awesome too because he knew I was in my senior year, and I didn't realize I was kind of ignorant to like how tough it was for him. So I would come home a lot, like on the weekends, like during breaks. Next thing you know, I was working fucking 60 hours a week every time. Like I came home for a break,
Yeah.
and then I would leave.
But I was trying to like shield you from what was about to come.
No, I honestly, that was unbelievable looking back on it now. And then I had dad like, you know, like he doesn't even know.
No, he was like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, Dad, it's fucking senior week.
He doesn't even know
He's
when
trying-
the semester ends. He's
Yeah.
just like, so you're going to be home tomorrow? I'm like, no, I'm literally in Rhode Island, like
Yeah.
at college, like normal college kids do, you know?
Yeah.
And then I get a phone call from Angelo like an hour later, like, dude, don't listen to dad. We'll figure it out. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So then now that's like when I kind of started to figure out, I'm like, fuck, they need help like bad.
Yep.
You know? And then I would come home.
So
and
then-
help
so
out.
then-
So
so
he
then-
graduated.
Yeah, so
he
then
graduated.
talk that
He graduated from college. That day we went to lunch. That night we went to the restaurant. Next day, he right to work and hasn't
Yeah, and that was
literally that day. and that was it,
no
you know?
break. Yeah, no buffer.
So then give the time, because there was a long timeline where you guys both lived at mom's house.
Yeah. So
And
so
then
what
the
ended up
money thing, like, talk about that. Like, were you guys making any money? How did you guys make money? Because that story to me is pretty cool. Because again, I was younger. I wasn't even in the picture at all at this point.
Yeah, no, we realized right away that we weren't going to be able to pay ourselves anything, and there was going to be no money, and we were going to have to try to find a way to make it work. So right away, basically, I worked in the kitchen I think 7 nights a week.
Which is lesson number one, by the way. If you have to live slim in the beginning, sometimes
slim isn't even the word.
you know what I mean. Like they were living so slim. They lived in my parents' basement, both of them with serious girlfriends. Blair just moved from like New Jersey to come here, living in mom's basement. Angelo, met his now wives, lived in the basement together, like roommates, again, in my mother's basement while owning a restaurant.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. They had to live slim because they were not making any money.
Exactly. So the way we paid ourselves is basically I worked in the kitchen like 6 or 7 nights a week, and Lucho was a bartender and a waiter. For that, I think it was like 7 or 8 years.
That's what people did. That's what I remember.
No, it wasn't that.
It was like
long,
4, dude.
It
No.
was like
4.
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
It wasn't 7 or 8 years.
No, dude, it was 4.
I'm pretty sure.
No, it was 4.
From 22 to 30.
Yeah, because I moved to Danvers when I was 27. So it was 22 when we bought 5 years.
Yeah, it was 5 years at the
So it was 5 years. So, okay, in those 5 years, basically we didn't take any paycheck at all. I worked in the kitchen. He worked as a server, and we basically split his tip. So every night, if he made $200, I'd be cleaning in the kitchen. He would come and hand me 100, and he would keep 100. And that's how we lived for the first 5 years.
With no rent, living at home, again, to save money to then,
Put back
because
into the
dad
business.
was instilling, like, you have to keep reinvesting in this place. Like, there's no money to take out. You guys have to live like peasants. For now, again, sacrifice the short term, build up that money in the account to then renovate the bar, renovate the function
So
room.
that was what changed. So there was a available space right next to the restaurant, and even though we weren't making any money, basically we made a deal with the landlord. Again, this was like a different time in the economy. There was a lot of availability, and we made a good deal. So basically, we ended up taking that space next door and built out a function room. We did it on the cheap, like we were painting, like put the carpet down ourselves, like.
That swung the
Yeah, so basically what we did was we got double the amount of square footage, double the capacity that allowed us to do private parties with the same overhead.
Yeah.
And that was like a big lesson for us in business, which was the key in a business, especially in a brick and mortar business, is to maximize the revenue with keeping your overhead relatively the same. Because your rent doesn't, if you're open 5 days a week or if you're open 7 days a week, your rent is the same. Right. If you're going to do, $100,000 a week in revenue or $20,000 a week in revenue, your rent is the same. Right. The only thing, there's some fluctuation in food costs, and especially if you can find a way to keep the labor relatively the same and add more sales.
And that's what we liked about functions.
That's what we liked about functions and catering and all that stuff. So we really doubled down on that stuff once we found it. And then that's the moment when things started to change.
So timeline is like the first 5 years was straight like survival mode. There wasn't much, more money being made. It was just learning, trying to see what's going on. Then all of a sudden, I feel like after year 5, you guys became like, I know the restaurant. Now it's time to innovate and make this thing better, make money.
Now we were confident enough to make decisions.
Like like something switched. Like, okay, now it's time.
Right. Then we renovated the bar. We're like, okay, where's the income coming from?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's the profit margins coming from? So then we added the bar.
Yes.
And then what happened from there?
Yeah. So then, then we had the functions, we had the catering. Then we started, doing a lot
the
of
daytime
corporate catering.
Now we're filling up the days, maxing out each day instead of just being busy on Friday and Saturday.
Exactly.
So we little by little maxed the shit out of that.
And mind you, this particular location that we were in ended up, it went through like 5 or 6 different ownership owners
it was
over
like a
a 10-year
cursed kind of
period
place, yeah.
because nobody could figure this thing out where it was like for the amount of space that it was, like nobody was able to figure out like the revenue
visibility
to
is
overhead
horrible.
cost.
That was
Yeah, it's not a great like location like physical. It's good on a map, but doesn't have like a lot of like drive-by traffic.
right.
But the reason that we were able to figure out, and I don't think anyone got to the point of figuring out yet, was the idea of maximizing the revenue with that overhead.
And don't forget this part was my dad was, and we all really were, but my dad really pushed like quality of food. Like the quality of
that's all
food
we cared about.
has to be number one. So my dad had the idea at the time to bring in chefs from Italy to come in, train everybody, come with new concepts. And then that's when I feel like everyone got obsessed. And that's why I think their success came from, is the quality of food at the restaurant is incredible.
Yeah.
And the portions you get. We're not cheap about the portions.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
no.
So then
We had a whole thing of our saying was we want to give the value of a Ferrari for the price of a Ford. Like that was our whole, that was like our thing going through. But we built it like one plate at a time, one meal at a time.
Yeah.
We were very selective.
It was slow and steady. I mean, we
yes.
never went backwards though. Never ever went backwards.
Yeah, we haven't had a down year since. Always up.
So, and then let's talk about where restaurant number 2 came from. Because now at this point, right, timeline, let's think about then. Restaurant's going good, probably starting to make a little more money. We did a bunch of reinvestments, and now
It sprung from real estate because
talk about it.
Yeah, so then we ended up finding a building that was at auction. That went at auction again. This is during a shit show time in Beverly. So we ended up buying it more as an investment property. We required very little money down. It was an auction. We really scored on the deal.
yeah, we paid $280 for that building.
No, less. 240.
240?
Yeah.
Wow.
240, yeah.
240, and I was the real estate agent, so I got commission back.
Right, for a 3-story building, two 3-bedroom apartments
With the restaurant on
second
the
and third
first floor.
with the restaurant on the first floor.
But the restaurant on the
240.
first floor didn't come with the liquor license, so that was the risk we took. That's why
Yeah.
we got it for so cheap, and it was a bar, so it was like
Yeah.
a bar with no liquor license, right? And there was
Right,
nothing.
yeah.
There was none available. So the story there was we got the building on the cheap. We renovated the 2 apartments above that covered the overhead. And then I spent the next like 2 years like making it my life's mission to try to track down a liquor license.
yeah.
So it was like I went to every single person that had a liquor license in town.
Yeah, that was a shit show. I remember the seasonal thing.
Oh my God, it was they wanted to give us a seasonal.
That's how you got your feet wet though, with like understanding the city and like
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
stuff
Zoning,
at a
city.
young age. Yeah, like we learn these things like in a crash course.
Exactly, and then I
Which
started
is the
making-
best way to learn.
Right.
Well,
To be
honestly,
honest.
the going back to that, like, you know, kind of goes back to dad, like, because dad's English and this now, like, he doesn't know how to deal with people in the city.
Right.
So Angelo was always in the front. Like, my father would be like, I think this is what we should do. No, I don't know who to talk to. And then Angelo would go figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you develop this skill of like being able to talk to really any kind of person and understanding people in the city too, which has been any city, you know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
inspectors, you know, all that shit. That's been huge for us.
Exactly. So that.
So then Toscana Bar Italiano.
Yeah, so then we ended up getting the liquor license again because I had a relationship with the people down at the mayor's office. She literally called me. I won't say her name. She'll probably get in trouble for this, but she knew. I literally had a reminder set up on my phone. Every Monday morning, I called her at 9 a.m. Hey, so and so, how's your weekend? Checking in. Any liquor licenses coming up or available? And she would be like, all right, every day. And then I would bring her cannolis once in a while. I would give her gift cards to the restaurant. Like, listen, if you hear of anything, you let me know. Because again, we had this thing empty for a couple of years, you know? And then she called me. She said, hey, this place literally closed last night. You know, get your shit together. And I had a filled out application already with the lawyer already in my car. I think I did 90 miles an hour on 2 wheels to get to the city hall.
Yeah, the awareness to
Boom.
do that was like, because
Yeah.
I had no clue. I'm
Yeah.
over there just like knee deep in like a saute pan.
So
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
that goes back to like the different perspectives and strengths. Angelo's strength, real estate, people in the mayor's office, talking
Right.
to cooks and stuff like that's one of his major strengths.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then-
Absolutely.
yeah,
So then what happens? So then we open Toscana's, we get some money together that we collected over to Toscana's Peabody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not involved at all here. And then you guys buy it, renovate it, open the doors.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, you know, we jumped there right away.
We did good there right away. Our overhead was low.
Well, we
Not
opened
great,
there.
but-
We opened there with the chef. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
Something happened. You know, I'll tell you what happened. So basically, it was like a Monday night. We had a table come in at like
Oh my God, I
8:30.
remember this.
All right, listen. You tell me what you would have done.
Yeah.
I remember that.
At 8:30 p.m., a table comes in of 10. We were slow all night. It was a Monday night. They order appetizers, right, at 8:45, and the chef like wanted to go home early. So 9 o'clock. So they order the apps. By the time they went to order the entrees, the chef told the waitress, the kitchen's closed. We're not doing entrees.
Not right by the client.
Kidding me?
No,
like,
that's
are you
bad.
kidding me?
Imagine being at that table.
Are you
fuck
kidding me?
you.
So the reason I even bring up that story is because we let him go immediately for that, because that's unacceptable to the guests.
Right, and he was a great chef. Best chef we ever encountered, probably.
Yeah, he was very, very good. Now we let him go. So what did that mean for me? Because we had no backup plan, no nothing.
Yeah.
I ended up having to work. Now when he left, he took another person, the sous chef with him, right? So I ended up having to work there 7 nights a week. I remember it was like May that it happened.
Yeah, the whole summer.
The entire summer, seven days and nights a week. And the other guy that I had working with me couldn't read. Remember?
What was that guy's name?
I don't want to bring it up here, but yeah, it was, he couldn't read, right? So I had to read every ticket that was coming in.
Yeah, that was
to
tough.
him.
Just you and that guy.
So you're talking about 7 days a week like that.
That was bad.
If I went outside to take a phone call and an order, God forbid, came in, a fried calamari came in, he would make a chicken parm. Like literally, like that was legit the entire summer.
Talking about trap.
And that summer, I had a bunch of my friends' weddings that I had to miss.
Oh, I remember that.
All like the bachelor parties I had to miss.
Ago.
It was.
Now it is.
Yeah,
it
it was though. Yeah.
So that sucked.
So give timeline. So the first restaurant opened when?
2009.
Second Toscana Beverly was when?
17, I think.
17
or 15.
No, way before that.
Or 15.
I don't know. That was the next step though, Beverly.
But I remember there was a big gap between 1 and 2 though.
Yeah,
there was. Yeah,
like a lot of learning curve.
Sure.
Yeah. So then the second restaurant's going really well. What was the next venture that opened?
Next was Nutre.
Right. This is kind of where I come in. So my story is a little different. When I graduated college, I worked for someone else for a year, did really well, but then my dad were like, you have to start working with your brothers and start to integrate yourself a little bit. And at the time I was doing a lot of nightlife stuff. I was 21 years old. I was like bouncing and shit on the weekends. And there was an opportunity to start my own company with a friend of mine. I did that. We did really well, super successful. And then we got merged with like a tech company called Tableless at the time, like 2 or 3 years after we opened. Merged with them, did a lot of like growth and stuff. And then, I was getting older. It's kind of time to, stop that and merge more with my brothers. There was an opportunity to open a Nutre. And there was an idea that we had together when we were, again, talking on Sundays. I was doing my own thing. My brothers had the restaurants. And we would talk every Sunday. And there was an opportunity that came up about owning or starting a meal prep company.
Yeah. So basically, I've been overweight my whole life, and my dad has type 2 diabetes, had a heart attack. So we were trying to manage his diet, through prepping meals at the restaurant. And I'm always trying to lose weight. So I was, also prepping for myself too. So we, that's how we started with Dad and myself. And then we started cooking for them. And then we were like, okay, listen, if we're at the restaurant already, again, this idea of maximizing the revenue in the same building, that's literally how it started. We're like, okay, if we can make, 200 meals a week out of here for 10 clients, whatever it is, it'll bring X number of revenue on top. And the only cost is food. And if Angelo cooks all the food at night, then there's no labor and blah, blah, blah. So like, that's how the idea started. So then we started doing it where I was cooking
Sunday nights.
No, I was cooking Friday nights and Saturday nights overnight. And then you guys were delivering the food to customers' homes Sunday overnight.
So at this time I was still doing the nightlife stuff. Me and Angela would cook. Me and Lucho and one other person would pack the orders. Yeah. And then me and my friend would deliver them at night from like midnight to like 4 a.m.
At the end of your nightlife.
And this was after my nightlife stuff. So at like 2 a.m. I would like drive to the restaurant, grab all the food and start delivering. And then it kind of started with friends and family, with majority of my network of people. And the big thing was the reason I really like the nightlife stuff is my network is extremely strong between, art, like celebrities, artists, regular folks, business people. Like I really met a lot of people along the way. And that story goes deeper, but we're not going to go like too deep into that because it'll take too much time.
No, we're not getting into that.
Yeah, it's too much. And then friends and family started going really well. Then we moved to the Beverly location. No, we did the garage.
No, so I mean, you want to go
I don't
to
think
each,
we need to
no,
get
we don't
that
need to get into
granular.
each scale of
Yeah.
every day that happened from 2000.
So long story short,
Yeah.
we started that in 2017. We did friends and family. 2018, we got a website. Another crazy backstory about.
No,
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go.
What is the?
No, I'm
hold
not.
on. No,
I'm not gonna
what
go
are we
in.
doing on this episode?
No, I'm not gonna go into it.
What are we talking about?
I'm not gonna go into it.
Are we
It's a whole-
talking about what we did on Thursday, September
Well,
20th?
So you're talking about a
2010?
lesson.
I mean,
you're talking about a lesson with the
we're giving a
website.
fucking
Right,
overview
right.
of what we're
You wanna
talking
talk about a
here.
lesson with the
it's just
website?
background.
We're
Okay,
talking about
all
an
right.
overview of what we've done.
did Nutrite 4 years later. Now it's probably one of the biggest meal prep companies in New England. A lot of shit in between that time frame. Then what happened with the insurance company?
Then we ended up investing. We got an opportunity to buy into or open an insurance company.
Right. So that's kind of a unique situation. So that was as
During
soon as-
COVID.
It was during COVID.
Yeah, when COVID came up, an opportunity came with a friend of ours who was in the same business.
Well, we
He's-
tried to diversify.
He-
That was the
well, that's
biggest
what he said. He said, "Listen, we have this opportunity. That they're looking for someone to open an insurance company in this area. I think you'd be a good fit for it." And at the time, COVID just happened. Everything was shut down. We were like, "All right, what's
we
going to
were
happen?"
seriously panicked. We were like, "Fuck."
We had
dude.
another
Yeah.
restaurant under agreement.
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah.
That's
We
right,
did. We had another restaurant under agreement that about to close.
And
No,
I-
we signed the P&S
Yeah.
on March 16th, right? And then the next day was like they announced everything shut down, like big shit show. So we ended up like begging to get out of that deal. They released us from the deal because it was just like a crazy act of God
Think
situation.
back to the first time COVID was like,
No,
brought
it was
up.
scary.
Fucked up.
So
The
we were like,
first time.
didn't know where this thing was going to end. So we're like, all right, let's get into the insurance business as well. And then,
Yeah, let's diversify. Like we're gonna do our best to get through with the restaurants, but
exactly.
we're gonna, we can't. How long is this thing gonna last? We can't just make no money for now. We need to find another stream of income.
So did that. That was in 2020. The next venture we did was Marte Capital, which was probably around that same time frame with a friend of ours who we knew who's doing really well, and that was going to be lending at first. Did a bunch of real estate investment. We had some capital sitting around. Did some real estate investing into multifamilies with developers that we knew, and then an opportunity came where we ended up doing a development project in Naples because we were actually looking there for our vacation home, and then from there we saw some gaps in the market. Now we're building 4 villas down in Naples with Marte Capital. Then the most recent one with the same partner that we did Marte Capital with, an opportunity came up to open up Premier Solar, which is a solar company.
Yeah. Yeah. So Premier Solar, we're a residential solar installation company. We're operating 10 states now. We have the goal of going to 48 states in 2023. We're really, really excited about that. We have great partners working in that company.
High ceiling business, a scalable business. Because now at this point we're older, we understand more business. Right. We don't do things that we can't scale.
Yeah, one of the
which was a learning curve.
In Tino's
Timeline?
His timeline that literally just broke down the last 15 years, day by day, hour by hour.
You guys are the one talking about fucking restaurant.
The biggest thing was, the biggest thing that's changed really, from where we were to where we are, is leadership in where we spend our time, right?
Yeah.
One of the most common things that we get all the time is, how do you guys do so many different things in a day? It seems like you guys have 32 hours in a day and we only have 24. How does that get done? And really, it's leadership and having really strong teams. And, that's been the difference, right? And in layers of management, we are really cautious about where we spend our time right now. And that was very difficult. And that we'll talk about this at another time, from going from the hustler mentality, building these companies with everybody on the ground every single day, to transitioning to a point where we kind of operate as CEOs of each different kind of company in leadership. And that transition took 2 years of difficult conversations and really getting everybody to buy into that and be okay with
people are so used to.
Well, it's not even just that. It's also dad's mentality and that genre of people, that mentality, the baby boomer business owners, were all about rolling the sleeves up.
Dude, a lot of people like that, man. It's the hustler.
I know, but that
the hustler mentality of
there's
doing
a time
everything
and a place
yourself.
for that. Then that there's a time frame that needs to be done, especially in the beginning. That's the way you need to think.
Exactly.
Ignorant.
In order to become a CEO, really, you need to kill the hustler inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What got you to 0 to 1 million is not the same thing that's going to get you 1 million to 10 million.
Right.
And
10
that
million
is
plus.
10 million to 20 million is not the same as 20 million to 100 million, you know?
Exactly.
So you need to change yourself and evolve and figure all these things out. And we've done a really good job of, you know, pivoting and figuring that out, especially as things have gotten more complicated and more, you know, different types of business.
The
you know
more
what I'm saying?
complicated it gets, though, the more secure and structured and organized things are getting.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting
It's almost
really
like-
fucking efficient.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost like the bigger you get, the more A players that come into your organization, the more you attract that then brings more layer of management to then be able to get our heads above the water to then see a bigger vision to grow.
Right, to work on
Yeah.
the business.
And another key thing along that way that we didn't talk about, which is probably one of the most important things of our strategy of generating wealth, is buying real estate.
Yeah.
So we bought our first property together in 2015, where I put my money together that I was making by myself, and then they put their money together that they were making with the restaurants. And we bought our first multifamily in Beverly, Mass.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we've bought along the way.
Yeah, we never stop buying real estate.
Ever.
And we never ever spend money on ourselves, dude. That's another
Yeah.
thing that needs to kind of be.
We lived,
spoken
I mean,
about.
we lived very, very modestly and thin.
We still do. We still do. We don't
Yeah.
take a dollar more that we need to take to survive.
Exactly.
Every year that goes by, it's like, okay, Angelo now has 3 kids. Let's
Yeah.
We need to make an
let's bump it
adjustment
up for
here.
everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
like Lucho's house is too small right now. We need to bump it up.
Yeah.
But it's just exactly what we need. Like we have nothing extra.
Yeah,
And
very
if we
little
have a
fluff.
great car or we have decent cars, it's because we needed the write off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we never go out there and spend like lavishly. Just there's no stupid vacation, none
Yeah.
of that. And that's been a huge part of it for us. Like there hasn't been a wasted dollar in capital that doesn't go back into reinvesting into the business.
Which is a
Correct.
misconception. The business owners think that my money comes first. It's like, no, the team's money and the business comes first. You work for your business. Your
Right.
business is first.
Right.
And then you take your shit last. And if there's extra scraps on the table that all three of us make the decision that we may take some more, and it's usually the reason we will take it is because
one
Angelo
person
had
has
another
to,
kid,
and then we
or-
keep it even throughout.
yeah,
that.
Lucho needs a renovation for something that's important for like his family living or something, then okay, we'll take some scratch. But it's never just, hey, let's just take some scratch to go fucking go to dinner this weekend or
Right.
go on a lavish vacation or fucking buy a Ferrari or
No.
something.
And-
Because we could all have Ferraris, right? But we don't for that reason to keep reinvesting and to keep that.
Well, we're
thin
playing the long
mentality.
game all the time. Like, no,
Exactly.
we don't care about anything that's happening right now. Like, we have the big picture in mind, and that's just it's always been the way we thought.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's never wavered even a little bit, you know, from day one.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. And that's been part of, that's been part of our success. I'm sure we'll get to a point someday where we can enjoy a little bit more, but we're not even close to there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that all ties back to our upbringing and shit, and
Yeah.
to like dad and mom and how they like
Mhm.
brought us. Like, even if we grew up like feeling well, I feel like mom and dad always made us feel like not like poor, but like not like overly have all this shit, you know, like you always made us like work for it and kind of
Yeah,
like,
no,
Yeah.
no,
we
no
always
question.
had cool stuff, but we always worked, you know, like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
All right, so that was an overly detailed background of how we got started and everything. We want to thank Valentino for really
Me?
breaking it down.
Are you guys
making-
just
fucking
keeping
for real?
us on a
Time out.
tight
When you
time.
keeping
guys,
us on a
when you guys,
very day by day thing.
when you guys watch
Making
this,
sure we
when
didn't
you guys
skip.
watch this, you're gonna see how much rambled you guys went on some of the stories, and they're gonna be like, "Wow, I actually kept this fucking thing together."
Yeah,
As
let
the
us know what
youngest-
you think. Who
youngest and most
rambled the
handsome brother.
Yeah.
Who rambled the most during that thing? Who wasted the most time? And
You'll see.
It wasn't me.
yeah, we'll see. So this
Wasn't you.
is the background. We're first talking about our backgrounds and stuff like that. Then we'll talk about different lessons that we've learned along the way. Specifically, we'll talk to other entrepreneurs that we talked about as well. That we're going to get really granular on how they started, like very specifically. How did you get in your first deal? How did you get in your first business? And then how did
Yeah.
you scale?
And the reason that's so important is because every time you meet someone successful, the first thing they ask is, "What do you do? How'd you start? What do you do? How'd you start?" And that is what we're trying to answer for you guys. We're trying to answer, if you see a guy like in a Ferrari, in a Lamborghini, whatever, we're going to find out exactly how they started. And hopefully those lessons will translate to you guys, because a lot of it just happened. A lot of it comes down to just starting.
Yeah,
Like, get out of your own way. Get out of your own head. Just fucking start. There's no magic pill to this thing.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. And it's important for people to see what the reality was. behind it.
Exactly.
And that everyone who is successful is just a normal fucking person.
Yeah.
They just picked a path, they went for it, and they didn't quit, and that's where they are.
And the people we're going to have on here are not fluff and buff people. Like, kind of bring this like their secondary social mantra of them. Like we're bringing on people who are genuine and they're going to tell you the real fucking
We're gonna
stories.
get real, yeah.
Yeah,
We're going to get real.
We'll get real. So that's our first episode. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Nice.